Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do get started, let me just give a brief little review. In the last part, we had a lot of things going on. Now, Izuku and his party, they're dealing with quite a bit of things that have happened. Deku, Oliver, and Indra, these three, they went on a quest, while Pyra, she went on her own quest to try and figure things out with her new abilities. After being cursed and turned into a beast folk, she's trying to get reaccustomed to her new body. She has a tail, she has dog-like legs, she has claws, ears, and her nose has began to pick up more smells, meaning her ears and hearing may begin to do the same thing. She is no longer fit to hold a bow nor draw one, so she has to try to get used to how she is now. And that was definitely quite a bit of a challenge for her, since she decided to take on a quest to see what she can do. And Deku and his friends, they had their own problems. Something was rampaging nearby, and they discovered it was a giant serpent in the woods. They began to fight it, and they were having quite the amount of trouble. Izuku, he had a few ideas as to what to do. He even thought they may potentially have to go into retreat, since they can wear it down now, fall back, gain back their stamina, and come back to wear it down again. If they do this tactic of run and attack, there may be a potential for them to take it down over time. However, they did not want them to do that. Deku was able to see their name, Zagal, not their level, and they laid down a beat down on Deku, even letting him stop their battle to take that thing out and then try to fight him again, just a little bit stronger. But even then, that did not work. And the man, he broke Deku's construct in their fight. He cracked it at first, and Izuku had to pull everything out of his toolkit to try and fight this guy. He was a monster. He used every one of his skills. He tried to use his magical abilities. He even increased his physical stats and still lost. But they came to save his life, and they made things quite clear. They will only give him this mercy once. He is still being observed by the Demon Lord. The next time those two meet will be as enemies. And that guy took out the guy who was kicking his ass in less than 5 seconds. And it had him terrified. He was only allowed to live because this guy was stopping a rogue agent. It made no sense to him. However, he did not question it. Later, talking to Theodore and Pyra when she came to see him. And then there was also where Thela, she decided to check up on Deku, sensing the frustration in his being, and even fulfilling their bargain of seeing what his will was like in his dreams. Now, with that being said, Theodore has been talking to some people about what's happening. And Izuku, after 2 days being on the mend, he was finally able to get up with no pain. His armor is shot to shit, and that is a fact. One he does not really much like. And that is another story. Right now, him staring down at his weapon. The man called it dark steel. He seemed surprised with his weapon. He clearly had the stronger blade. His shattered. If they can find out what that one is, maybe it can give him some more information on this. Though, well, let's see if his level's high enough to finally evaluate it. Him going to raise his weapon and go to try to evaluate it again. This time, however, he does go to get the message. Currently not high enough of level to evaluate this object, and that it does still intrigue him. Clearly, the sword is more powerful than he thought. He's probably going to have to ask around. Yeah, definitely. So, the shop he needs to go to repair his armor, yeah, he is a regular customer there at this point. But maybe get it enchanted? How much would that cost? That would probably cost a decent amount of gold. So, yeah, he'll have to check up on that. He got over 4,000 gold pieces from the dungeon, so he can afford it. But that's still a lot of freaking money to drop. He does still have all those gems. Maybe figure out what to do with those. Sell them? Yeah, maybe sell them. But he'll have to ask around about that. Currently, him getting out of his room and heading down to the courtyard, where he does see some members of the Royal Guard going to run past. One running up and trying to ask him a question. Deku turning his head as they ask about the serpent at the edge of town. If he managed to take it out. You mean in the woods? Yeah, sorry. Not that, but people are bringing it in. I heard that they're trying to do something with it with the guild. Right. I'll have to check it on that later. Stop by and see if I can maybe get some of it for myself. Maybe, but the guild wants to try and figure out what it can do. They've never seen that thing. Him holding his hand up, introducing himself as John. Deku shaking the man's hand and talking about it. It's nice to meet him. Right now he's a little bit busy. The man nodding his head while still running in place, telling Izuku that if he does have time, maybe he should try to train with some members of the Royal Guard, turning and running off. Him going to use evaluation and seeing their levels. They're not bad. They're at level 70. A decent amount of them. The man up front is over level 100. Okay, that's good. Maybe you should try to join them in training. Turning and hearing Oliver. Him and Pyra going to run up as Indra does still stand where she was. Talking about how if he's doing better, then perhaps they can go on another journey. Him turning and talking about it. Maybe they can. Right now, though, he does have a few things he does want to talk about. Bringing his hand up and pulling the sigil from his inventory, asking Draconic exactly if she does know much about this magic. Her staring at it, surprised that he has one of those. Though she does remember his conversation with her father. Her telling him. She knows a decent amount about that. She doesn't know the magic form if that's what he is asking. Right. But could you learn it from this? Perhaps, but maybe I would have to communicate with my father. Okay. Could you at the very least tell me what you do know? Maybe I can go from there? And maybe we can try to train under him. I doubt that. He'll try to send you on a quest that might get you killed. Yeah, I've done a bit of that lately. But I'm just asking. This magic might be good for us to know. It could help us survive at some point. And that's why I did take on the skill polyglot. In order to gain better rewards later? Potentially. I mean, I haven't tried dragon casting yet, but I don't know any incantations for that. I don't need them, but I figured that they might add an extra punch. They would. Dragon magic is one of the most powerful forms of magic. Her smiling, quite confident and puffing out her chest, saying that. As he does talk about it. Maybe. But he doesn't know much about it. All he knows is it does still require incantation. But there are some spells that are interesting. So, could she try to teach him some? We mainly focus on the element we were born of. So yours is fire. Yes. Your element, you'd have to find a water dragon. Or even an ice dragon of a mountain. A blue one. I see. Okay then. Her raising her hand and talking about it. Stepping forwards a bit more seriously. She could look into the sigil herself. And try and see what she can glean from it. It would take a couple months at most. But if she does get started on it right away, maybe a few weeks, she would be able to learn the incantation for it. But teleporting everybody would be a different story. It would either drain them all of mana, or they'd have to find a way to do it on a less large matter. I see. Yes, we would be limited, but we would still have a decent range. That's good. Now, her handing it back, expressing about how they can do that later. Right now, she was curious about what he was going to do with that piece of armor of his, since clearly he cannot wear it no more. Yeah, that's true. And you still have yet to get Pyra a proper weapon. I know. But she just hasn't found anything that she likes. Her nodding her head, expressing with a bit of a growl in her tone. She just doesn't know. She likes the bow. And using other weapons is still odd to her. Maybe a sphere? Something with range, still. Right. Maybe we can go to a magic shop. But, yeah, if we're gonna do that, I might need to stop at the bank. Really? Yeah, ever since we got back into town, I have been meaning to go by there. Getting most of my gold and stuff. You do not carry it on your own person? No, I don't. Well then, that does seem to be your mistake. Her smiling, looking at him as Deku does stare at her. She does have her coin purse to her side. And she does stare at Deku, bring her hands up as a badge is manifest in her hand. And this does give him the realization. She has an inventory skill. He kinda shouldn't be surprised. Her smiling, the bag disappearing and talking about it. She does understand the human frustration, but if they are going to go out buying things, then yes, perhaps they should go. Okay, I need to sell my, I guess, gems. We're gonna go? Him turning to Pyra, whose tail does start to wag as Oliver does just somewhat chuckle, talking about it. Yeah, they'll go to the bank. But, why does he want to go there? He doesn't have money there, right? No. I was hoping that they can help me sell these gems. Deku pulling out 2 large bags, and they do to stare at that. Him expressing. He kinda tried to sort them out by size, and they do but to stare at that. Him gonna make them disappear, expressing. So lead the way then. Oliver understanding and heading out. Right now, them making their way out of the castle and into the city. Deku going to hold Pyra's hand, but still hearing that sound behind her. And some people, they are even commenting on it. Indra laughing a little bit as Oliver does try to express. So, yeah, it's a pretty big place and they do tend to try and cut you a fair deal. It is technically a place that does help the Adventurers Guild with a lot of things. And people do tend to bring in a lot of crazy stuff. Like the time they brought in a dragon. Or, well, the wyvern, but you know what he means. They brought in the small thing, and the guild, they talked to the bank, and yada yada yada. That'll happen. So this is going to be an interesting thing. Him understanding. And when they do just step inside, the guards outside, they do stand there. Right now, them staring at the group who are barred from entry. However, Oliver does bring his hands up, him expressing about how he does have business here. And he does go to pull something from his pocket, holding it up and showing that he is a member of the Knights. Them letting him pass as he does a step in. Right now, them stopping the three from entering, asking exactly who they might be. And Izuku does step forwards, bringing his hand up and holding up the sigil he was given by the king. And the two do to turn looking at each other, before they do to lower their spears and step to the side. One bringing his hand up to his chest and bowing his head, apologizing for interrupting their business. And the group are allowed to pass. As when they do a step inside, he does a look around, seeing that the bank, it does have some people he's never seen before, nobles. And he does even recognize someone from the court. But there is where an older man with spectacles does come walking over, asking the group what they might be here for, bringing his hands up, expressing about how he does hope that with their friend here, things aren't going to be bad. Indra expressing, she is not here to do anything bad. She is simply here to watch business unfold. This will be very amusing. Ah, you must be the hero. The man looking dorky at Deku, talking about how they had quite a bit of trouble with his reward last time. But what might he be here for? I wish to sell bags of gems we got from a dungeon. I see. This is going to be quite simple. We can get them all counted out and handle it. The man looking at Deku's coin purse, talking about how this should be a simple little matter. Though he does express, bring him over to a table. That, when they do get everything sorted out, they can give him the payment immediately. Him nodding his head for bringing his hands up. And the old man does watch as two large bags are manifested out of nowhere, them clattering onto the table with sizable weight. And the man, he does have to stop his heart from going to jump up into his throat before he has to swallow the saliva that he nearly spit up. And he does gonna watch the bags open before Deku does gonna pour one of them out, and he does gonna freeze, staring at, oh dear, him raising his glasses as Deku, he has to pour the other bag, and a lot of people do begin to crowd around. Him staring at this as Oliver and Pyra do stare on. Indra looking on very intrigued. As the old man, he does begin to look around. Other members of the bank staff watching this table be covered in sizable gems of different quality. And the man, he does begin to sort some of them out. Him even staring at one that it clearly is from a dungeon. Because this color, this look to it, the grime on it, yeah, that's been down there for centuries. And then there's even this fire opal. I mean, another opal. A ruby the size of... Wow. I see, young man. Well now, we really should be more concerned with hauls like this. I'm assuming it's a lot. Yes. Well now, I have praised this all, and it is well over Well, to be exact, the man turning to his colleagues, watching as one of them does a step forwards and raise their glasses, staring at the table as he does, good to see it. The same glint in their eye. They're using the same skill as him. Him wondering about the level of theirs, though he doesn't scan the table himself. Right now, staring at the number he does get to see from many of the gems. Since the way they're clustered, they're. Oh, oh, oh. That is well over. That is 34,500 gold. All of these gems are way, way too valuable. Okay. Uh, Young man, we don't have enough gold at the current moment to pay you and service many of our customers. We we could not accept a haul like this. The maximum I believe we'd be able to pay out is 20,000, and that might still put us in some financial trouble for a bit of time. With many of our other higher status clients. Some of the nobles going to walk over to the table. Right now, guards standing ready to intervene, though they do stare down and begin to talk about how they'll buy some of these gems since they are of excellent quality. A man holding up an opal, one holding up a ruby, one even grabbing for one of these older looking gems Deku saw, and another does it to grab an emerald. The man turning and announcing to people to allow them to get names down, since they'll take the gold from their accounts if they're all interested. And people do understand. And a bit of sorting out later, Deku, he does have some of those gems still with him. However, now he also does have another problem. He's a very rich man. Very rich. So, this definitely does mean something. He's got almost 25,000 gold pieces. Okay, so enchanting his armor is going to be simple, if not buying a new set. People coming to give Deku the gold and watching it disappear in his hands. Some even asking him politely to please allow them time before they do this again. Since at the current rate he's bringing stuff in, he might bankrupt the kingdom. And he does give them an awkward laugh before they do get to leave and head to the shopping district. Right now, him talking about many things, and Pyra does drag him along a little impatiently. Him trying to ask her if something's okay. It's fine, but you've got to understand, there's something there I think you'll like. I know all of us will. I mean, you don't have to buy it if it's as expensive as I think it still might be, but okay, Pyra, you're getting way too excited. I am not. Oliver expressing. She is wagging her tail like a mad lady. Yes, she is. Her turning, baring her teeth at him, and he does bring his hands up, talking about how, hey, don't bite the messenger. And she does fix him with a glare, before expressing, okay, it's something she knows a lot of them will like. I mean, she does like being out in the wilderness and roughing it a little bit, but there's this thing. It costs a few thousand gold. It would be perfect. There's 4 of them, and if they do need to, they can spend time there while they're supposed to be camping, on break. It's something that will help them out a lot. It'll make their adventures easier. And he does understand. As we go to walk through the door into a room, he does go look around. The large magical shop, reminding him of one in Amsera. In this place, yeah. From what Pyra told him, talking his ear off down the road, this is the most expensive magical shop in the city. But they also cater to quite a lot of things. This place looks like a toy factory, a arts and crafts store, and an armory mixed in one. I mean, he's pretty sure he hears someone hammering on a forge. Turning his head, seeing a dwarf man behind him who does stare at Deku, him staring at him with a fixed gaze. Before another dwarf does get a look up, looking at Deku before looking down at the hilt of his weapon, turning his head and going to do the same thing. And that it does mean quite a bit, as right now he has a step into the shop and Pyra does try to ask about the items they do have. And they do get to start making their way around. Deku hearing about a lot of things. Right now, he does hear about a fox charm. It costs about 100 silver, but it does seem like it could be useful. If they do put it in fire, as the men just say, then whenever it does it heat up, it will produce the spirit of a fox, one who exists to bring together and keep the fire going. And that it does seem interesting. Though it does have the downside of needing to be warm. Them even hearing about how it will be made of the flame, but it won't burn anything nearby. And that it does sound good. It does cost quite a bit of silver, and with the idea that they might be, as Pyra put it, a bit better in luxury, they'll have to hold off on that. They do seem to have a lot of them. Deku going to turn, feeling some heat emanating off of a pair of gauntlets, when they do pass by an area where there is quite a bit of armor, and he does a turn staring at them, even turning his head and seeing a pair that do look like they're covered in blue runes. They look and seem to radiate some power, and he does stare at them, bringing his hand onto the material and running his hand along it. They're made of stone. Evaluation. Huh. Okay. They're powerful, but they're certainly of a high level. Huh. Okay, he doesn't even get a name for these things. Huh. Wait. The name is red. These are cursed. Him bringing his hand away, and being a bit apprehensive about that. Though he does a turn, going to look around at some other pieces of armor, stepping down and turning to a set of armor that does look similar to what he was wearing back in the Feywild. It does show the design of a shogun. It does even have a helmet that does have horns shooting up from it. And he does stare at the mask on it. Her expressing. He probably should be focusing on his skill. Turning his head, seeing Indra hold up her own arm. The scales going to sit there as she to express. Dragons have powerful armor, and the bond he does have with his familiar gave him that ability. Him holding up his arm. Right now, him holding up his right as she's to hold up her left. Him covering his arm in scales as she's to stare at that. Going to smile and express. That ability gets stronger the more it's exposed to combat. Armor, it is something. However, her father told her one thing. Someone who wears heavy armor in battle has never had their metal tested. And how many times has he wore armor he thought to be indestructible in the battle? It's not indestructible. But I've certainly had it beaten quite a bit. That is my point. You wore armor to fight every threat you've ever fight, right? That's true. I was stabbed by a zombie tree a long time ago, and My armor didn't hold up then. Then there was the Feywild, Stonefen, the Wyvern. The thing burned my armor directly off of me. That is my point. You're going for heavier and more expensive gear. That is not always the case. I'd say maybe stick to something light, something that is enchanted, and also use that ability. Make it stronger. You said it saved your life. It did. You're right about that, actually. But what do you know more about this, though? Deku is still gesturing to his arm, and she has to explain it to him, turning and looking around at some of these pieces of armor, as he is walking over to one that does clearly seem to be more for a berserker. It's got a bandolier of knives, and he does a stare at that. No, that doesn't seem good. Okay, but that looks more like a knight's armor, and wait a second. Him walking down and staring at a set as he does a turn, staring at what is this? It looks so familiar. No, that guy was wearing a modified version of this, wasn't he? I believe that is something you don't want to get into. It is quite between the two. What do you mean? It's medium weight. I'd say it weighs about maybe 40 pounds. Right. But the guy who attacked me was wearing something similar. Was he now? Yeah, but he had his left hand bandaged. It was odd. Huh. Perhaps avoid that. Could be a bad omen. Maybe you're right. But I still need to figure out my armor situation. As I said before, you need something good. Your skill should work as well. Are you talking about my skills again? I mean your unique skill, as you call it, spirit. You've been able to show that you can do a lot with it. Have you tried making it more compact, like compressing a fireball? Making it denser? I have not. Pyra running up, talking about how she found it, holding up a few bands in her hand. And those bracelets, they are a bit odd. Though she is trying to express, okay, these are really cool. You put a magic potion in a bottle, right? But these things you wear, you speak the command word and it heals you. Though you do have to soak them in potion, and they'll absorb it. Really? I'm walking over, holding it up and staring at this band. It's got 3 different leather straps woven together. Huh. He can sense magic in it, but that does raise a question. Her holding one up to Indra, talking about it. She thinks it'd be best if they all wear 2 of them. I mean, it would basically give them 6 different healing potions that they're wearing. Plus, she does know of one other thing they did find. Oliver turning, holding up a roll of tape and tossing it to Deku. Him catching it with one hand and looking at it, staring at the runes before he's express. If that can't fix anything, he doesn't know what will. Tape. It's mending. You take a good amount of that, cut it off, and put it on something. Tends to fix it. Wait, so you're telling me that if I use duct tape, I can fix my armor? He's not wrong. Okay, but that's actually really cool. Okay, so I can fix up my armor and get it enchanted then. It'll take time. Fair enough. Though, that is interesting. I know Pyra turning, a man walking by and staring at the group, as she's going to try and ask him if they do still have the cottage chest. The man turning, expressing about how, looking at them, they do have some available, but they are quite pricey items, about 3,000 gold each. We would just need the one. I see. And who might you be? Izuku stepping forwards, and the man does turn looking directly at him, as he does go to bring his hand up and go to pull open the front of his shirt a bit. The man staring at the scar and looking down. Him having the recognition and expressing, clapping his hands together and a bit more of his salesman persona, expressing that this is quite excellent. The hero's party is in his store. Him staring at the man, blankly and folding his arms. The man clearing his throat and expressing, they can come along this way, please. Him quickly moving down the aisle. And they do still go to stare at a lot of things. Deku turning his head and seeing someone holding up a piece of paper, but it's walking on its own. It's moving. That's amazing. Him turning, watching as Oliver does bring his hand down onto something and hold up a cube. Staring at that, there's scrolls over there and there's books. There's grimoires here. Wait, maybe he can buy another grimoire. Done on his mind, before the man is to stop in front of the chest. Deku looking down at what looks to be a tiny house. That's odd. This is about 3,000 gold. If you are to take it, I believe. It's quite the pricey item. I know. I've heard about this before. Her turning, bring her hand down onto it as the man does go to bring his hand up. Deku turning to the man and staring at him. The man going to freeze and go to retract his statement immediately. As Izuku, he is trying to do a few things in his inventory, taking one of the bags he does have, and beginning to try and find the right amount of gold. Him expressing, this is quite the exchange. Are they sure that they can really afford this? It is a very interesting item, as many adventurers do know, but it is also quite dangerous to try to pursue as a goal to buy. Most people give up on it, or they do retire with the earnings they do have. It's no shame to him going to hold up a bag, and the man turns to look at Deku as he does go to take the money and feel it. Him looking down and using a skill in the bag. Izuku recognizing it from the bank. The man going to smile widely, expressing about how congratulations on their latest purchase. Him walking over and pulling up one of the straps on one side, it disappearing in his inventory as the person does stare at Deku. The man talking about how he does need a guard over here, and they do go to stare at the man, holding a bag as the others do begin to look back to the store. Him going to turn, but seeing an item hanging on the wall he would never have thought he'd see. Him stepping across the aisle and turning. Him staring at a gun. That's not possible. Are you okay? But that's a gun. Oh, what? A gun. Oh, a spitter weapon. Yeah, I've heard of them. They're not very popular. They're usually loud. And they used to shoot this powder, but they changed them to work with magic. I heard that they can be pretty useful in some situations, but they make a lot of noise, so they're not very well used. Mainly on the front lines, but they've got other types. I've heard about this one that's super long and has a good range. They call it a rifle? I'm not too sure about it, though. A rifle? This is something from my world, Oliver. Is it? Yeah, but These are centuries old. Him picking it up, talking about it. I mean, people haven't used this type of weapon in 500 years in his world. They're outdated, and the ones they do have are way more efficient. Him turning to look at the price. It's about, what is it? Oh, shit. He's still just reeling from this. 100 silver. Okay, he'll think about that. But now he's concerned. Turning as Oliver does talk about a few things. Right now, him next into the store and finding a few of the other weapons. Pyra swinging a sword and even trying to get a good feel on a spear. Him turning as there actually is Oliver, who does go to hold up a book and go to show it off to Deku, expressing about what he found. And there is even Indra, who she does go to talk to somebody about this strange bracelet she does see. And when they do hand it over to her, and she does to hear about what it could do, she immediately gives it back, since that does seem a little insulting. Right now, her annoyed at the person, as there is for everybody, they do talk about a few more things. Them spending a bit of money and leaving. Though Izuku was quite surprised at the number of arrows they had in there. I mean, he knew explosive arrows existed, and apparently he learned something quite interesting. They have arrows that simulate the winter storm. Apparently they found a way to inscribe them onto a bolt. They're not as powerful, but they do pack a punch. Though there's also Dragon's Breath, Iron Tipped, and Smokescreen arrows. It was quite cool. He even saw this foldable pet thing that it was awesome. And there was even the tea spirits. It was great. But there was that one horn. I mean, it seemed like an interesting thing. Him going to hold it up in his hand. It's probably the most expensive thing he's bought. Second most expensive. 100 gold. It's a horn for a spirit. He's going to need to test this out later. There's so much he's seen here today. I mean, him and Oliver went half and half on the book of advanced fighting styles. Pyra found her weapon of choice, and there is even where Deku, he bought a firearm. He was quite surprised about it, but it might come in handy later. He does still want to experiment with that, find out more about what they're like in this world. But he is also concerned about this very expensive purchase. Pyra talking about what they can do. Right now, she can prepare a meal for them when they do go to test it out. And she does want to test it out about right now-ish. It'll give Deku the opportunity to test out his horn and give them some space to test out some of the stuff they all bought. Her wagging her tail and running down the road. Him smiling at that and going to give chase to his girl. Indra laughing herself as Oliver does go chasing after them. Her joining in with her newfound friends, her newfound companions, her comrades. They've seen battle, they've seen glory, and they've seen money. They're her kind of people. Her even giving a smile while running after them. As when they do get outside of town, they do go to stand there. Deku making sure the area is wide and open as she suggested. Setting the chest down and going to bring his hand up, holding the key and unlatching the lock that is on the chest. For he's going to open it up, and the thing, it does begin to disappear. Before the chest is to grow in size and morph and shift. Them watching as a house is built in front of them as they do to step inside. It's massive. It's large. There's a living room. There's, ooh, there's baked goods in here. That on Indra's mind. Her stepping in as even Pyra does follow her nose, her sniffing the air a little wildly. And Oliver does talk about it. He can't believe that Pyra made Deku buy a house. Him going to run on the hallway and find one of the bedrooms. As he does get to talk about it. Wait, no, this isn't one. There's a bathroom over here. Is there? Yeah. And, whoa. Huh? What is it? There's a large tub in here. Do you think that your shower idea would work in here? That is a good idea. Wait, does the water drain? No, I don't think so. I might have to figure that out soon. Maybe do some test? Or maybe potentially do something that would help it out. What do you mean? Magic is energy. If you do simply convert the raw material back into energy, then you would not have to worry about it flooding. Seriously? Yes. Dispersing magic is just reconverting it back into energy. That's what a counterspell can do. But it does take more magic to do and perform. That's... Huh. That does make sense. You're welcome. Her biting into one of the baked goods that's sitting on the counter. And Pyra does run down the hallway, making way up a staircase that Izuku did not know was there. Him going to run after her and find that she's trying to pick one of the rooms upstairs. Finding another one and another one, as they do try to talk about what's happening here. And there is where everyone, they do start to get settled in. Right now, Pyra cooking some food and talking about it. Deku sitting at the table, as so is everyone. They're messing with a few of the items they got at that store. And everyone, they're having a good time. Before bowls are set down, and they do go to eat. Him still surprised at a lot of things that have happened today. Though, right now, he does know their next current goal. Get to training and get stronger. And Sir Theodore, he brought this issue to the court. And the court, they do understand. They do authorize it, but they are worried about the well-being of that young man, especially if they are going to send him to a tower of that caliber. They don't know how far he might make it down, but at one point, it's going to weigh heavily on him, and he will need to return to the surface. But time in that place is sometimes both subjective and hard to track. So it is up to Theodore to make sure things do not get too far out of hand. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.